Hello and welcome to Better Body Movement. This class is designed to help you start feeling well.
I have less pain, literally eliminate that pain.
I just feel better.
I can tell that my posture is changing.
Bright light in the day when we've done our workouts online.
Makes me feel so good about myself.
Typically, runners who experience shin splints have overused the stabilizing muscles of the ankle as well as the dorsiflexion of the foot. The space between the tibia and the fibula has a sheath wrapped around it called the periosteum. This sheath oftentimes is rubbed raw, creating inflammation and tension on the shin bone. The muscles lining the anterior portion of the shin is the tibialis anterior, extensor digitorum longus, and extensor hallucis longus. Sitting on a chair in a figure 4 position, locate the edge of the tibia near the thick muscle tissue. To find the tissue we're working on, push the fingers to the edge of the tibia and drop directly into the muscle tissue. Then squeeze into the bone. Move up and down the shin vigorously. After 30 to 40 seconds working in that position, we will work the opposite side of the tibia with the thumbs. Press the fingers into the soft tissue on the opposite side of the shin. Drag the thumbs up and down vigorously for 30 to 40 seconds. Ensure you work all the way from the top to the bottom of the shin. If your fingers have a hard time tolerating the pressure, you can utilize a lacrosse ball. Holding the lacrosse ball cupped in your hand, press into the muscle tissue directly beside the tibia, working your way all the way from the top of the tibia down towards the ankle. Remember to use strong pressure directly near the bone. Continue the same kind of work on the inside portion of the tibia. Here, you can use pressure from your palm pressing into the muscle tissue, while your other hand cups the ball, allowing you to create the up and down motion. Another way to work the anterior tibialis is by sitting sideways on a foam roller and leaning forward, putting pressure down into the foam roller. Obviously, this takes some balance and coordination in order to keep the pressure on the foam roller. In this position, flex the foot and relax, making sure you squeeze the anterior tibialis. Once complete with the foam roller, in the same position, utilize the lacrosse ball, creating a more pinpointed pressure on the muscle. Work your way up and down the muscle tissue right beside the shin. Typically, runners who experience shin splints have overused the stabilizing muscles of the ankle as well as the dorsiflexion of the foot. The space between the tibia and the fibula has a sheath wrapped around it called the periosteum. This sheath oftentimes is rubbed raw, creating inflammation and tension on the shin bone. The muscles lining the anterior portion of the shin is the tibialis anterior, extensor digitorum longus, and extensor hallucis longus. Sitting on a chair in a figure 4 position, locate the edge of the tibia near the thick muscle tissue. To find the tissue we're working on, push the fingers to the edge of the tibia and drop directly into the muscle tissue. Then squeeze into the bone. Move up and down the shin vigorously. After 30 to 40 seconds working in that position, we will work the opposite side of the tibia with the thumbs. Press the fingers into the soft tissue on the opposite side of the shin. Drag the thumbs up and down vigorously for 30 to 40 seconds. Ensure you work all the way from the top to the bottom of the shin. If your fingers have a hard time tolerating the pressure, you can utilize a lacrosse ball. Holding the lacrosse ball cupped in your hand, press into the muscle tissue directly beside the tibia, working your way all the way from the top of the tibia down towards the ankle. Remember to use strong pressure directly near the bone. Continue the same kind of work on the inside portion of the tibia. Here, you can use pressure from your palm pressing into the muscle tissue, while your other hand cups the ball, allowing you to create the up and down motion. Another way to work the anterior tibialis is by sitting sideways on a foam roller and leaning forward, putting pressure down into the foam roller. Obviously, this takes some balance and coordination in order to keep the pressure on the foam roller. In this position, flex the foot and relax, making sure you squeeze the anterior tibialis. Once complete with the foam roller, in the same position, utilize the lacrosse ball, creating a more pinpointed pressure on the muscle. Work your way up and down the muscle tissue right beside the shin. Typically, runners who experience shin splints have overused the stabilizing muscles of the ankle as well as the dorsiflexion of the foot. The space between the tibia and the fibula has a sheath wrapped around it called the periosteum. This sheath oftentimes is rubbed raw, creating inflammation and tension on the shin bone. The muscles lining the anterior portion of the shin is the tibialis anterior, extensor digitorum longus, and extensor hallucis longus. Sitting on a chair in a figure 4 position, locate the edge of the tibia near the thick muscle tissue. To find the tissue we're working on, push the fingers to the edge of the tibia and drop directly into the muscle tissue. Then squeeze into the bone. Move up and down the shin vigorously. After 30 to 40 seconds working in that position, we will work the opposite side of the tibia with the thumbs. Press the fingers into the soft tissue on the opposite side of the shin. Drag the thumbs up and down vigorously for 30 to 40 seconds. Ensure you work all the way from the top to the bottom of the shin. If your fingers have a hard time tolerating the pressure, you can utilize a lacrosse ball. Holding the lacrosse ball cupped in your hand, press into the muscle tissue directly beside the tibia, working your way all the way from the top of the tibia down towards the ankle. Remember to use strong pressure directly near the bone. Continue the same kind of work on the inside portion of the tibia. Here, you can use pressure from your palm pressing into the muscle tissue, while your other hand cups the ball, allowing you to create the up and down motion. Another way to work the anterior tibialis is by sitting sideways on a foam roller and leaning forward, putting pressure down into the foam roller. Obviously, this takes some balance and coordination in order to keep the pressure on the foam roller. In this position, flex the foot and relax, making sure you squeeze the anterior tibialis. Once complete with the foam roller, in the same position, utilize the lacrosse ball, creating a more pinpointed pressure on the muscle. Work your way up and down the muscle tissue right beside the shin.
Go ahead and get set up. All right, good morning and welcome to our morning workout routine. So we will go ahead and get started. Do want to go through our I dedicates first, and then we'll get into our verse of the day. So, get my station moved here just in the right spot. Appreciate you jumping online and joining us and getting started here, but we always start our day with dedications, just getting our mind right to help other people dedicate this time with intention that's greater than ourselves. So that's what we do each morning. Lori, I got to talk to Lori a little bit. Her mom is still doing dialysis 3 times a week, so continue to pray for her. Ethan with his stage 4 liver and bile duct cancer, just processing life with that. My friend's wife was diagnosed with breast cancer, and they're doing a natural treatment through the process, trying to see if they can help change the cancer tissues, cancer cells, in a natural way. So be praying for healing for them. Sky Toyne, the transplant did go well, and ended up, now she's on such high rounds of antibiotics, anti-rejection meds, just there's a whole slew of them, like 6 or 7 that she's pretty much receiving daily. They readmitted her to Mayo because she was having such bad headaches and migraines, just debilitating, and she couldn't move. So they put her on pain medications to try to get through all of these. So apparently the first 30 days are the worst through the process, but after that it starts to improve. But we do need to pray for her to stay well, sickness to be removed, and not have an option to enter into her body because there's no defense systems right now as her body's rebuilding these cells. So Erin, Lois is back, so that's really cool. So she was giving me an update. Things are healing up, progressing. She did have a reaction, allergic reaction to one of the meds that was coming in. So she must have looked almost like she got a sunburn everywhere. So her body just went kind of through this. So, but hopefully she's going to get out of that here real soon and start feeling better, and then that ankle heals up really well. Carol with her knee surgery, continuing to pray for her. She's got a picture with an ice bag. Carol with her knee surgery recovery, so that surgery was on February 3rd, so we're just over a month out. I do believe her recovery is going really well. I think her PT, Jacob, actually went to the wellness center. He approved her to join us on Core Day, so maybe we'll see her this morning as we get going. Kira with the return of breast cancer, that's relation to Marcia in class here, and then we're just praying for Barb and Tom's health as they were sick. So we're going to continue to pray for them. Now, our verse of the day, in this is love, not that we have loved God, but that he loved us and sent his son to be the propitiation for our sins. Just a really cool note on that. The boys in our family recently got Bibles, and one was a living boys' Bible, and then another one was what they call a graphic novel Bible. So it looks like a comic book, and everything is just like comic bubbles. So it really makes it a lot easier for a kid who doesn't just read straight through to be able to actually sit with those pictures and read through it. And it's just interesting because even in the beginning, right, God created, had all these different things, and as soon as Adam and Eve were deceived into eating of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, that's when this plan began to unfold, because there's a 3-way communication that you see happening, or a communication amongst God himself, saying, hey, so they ate of the tree, now this is what we'll have to do. And so it's just interesting because that was the beginning of the plan, was as man fell, the plan was already invoked, that the creator, the one who made all things, would give himself up to save the ones that he created. Just a really cool thought process when we go through that. So that's it. So let's go ahead and get started, transition into our workout here. It is a core day, so just prepare yourself onto the floor. The only things you would need is a foam roller or like a pillow, just something to squeeze between your knees when we get there. Okay, so go ahead and lay down, get set and ready.
2, 1, pelvic tilt.
All right, if this is the first time you're joining us, remember we do things a little differently. So usually core training is taught navel to spine, kind of sucking the belly in. That's not actually what we look for. What we're trying to accomplish is spinal bracing, so that gap from the hips to the ribs, right, the waistline, we're going to try to solidify that and get it really tight so my spine can't change, right? So if I go stomach, belly button to spine, it's easy to transition back and forth. But if I compress and hold tight, it's much more difficult for my spine to shift and move. So what we're going to do is brace the spine. And how we do that is thinking, put a Dorito under your low back, and then I want you to think, crush that Dorito with your low back, nice and hard, without using your feet
3,
on the floor,
2,
okay?
1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with knee fall out.
All right. Tilt with knee fall out. So on this one, we're going to do the same thing. Do a Kegel, compress that
2,
core.
1. Pelvic tilt with knee fall out.
Then just slowly lower your knee out to the side. What we're watching for is that pelvic bowl, right, the pelvis, doesn't shift and come off the floor, right? We want that pelvis to stay firmly planted onto the floor, nice and tight. And we do that through doing core compression first. So right here, I'm kind of showing that. But compress, hold tight, tight, tight. Crush that Dorito, keep it crushed, knee out to the side. If you realize you don't have a whole lot of range of motion, that's fine, because I want stability more than I want range of motion in the hip. As you build stability in your core, the range of motion in the hip typically just starts to pick up, and it becomes easier over time to be able to go through that range of motion with the core fully compressed. Oh, I thought it was something cool. Oh, I thought it was something cool. Still waiting to hear back on my patent.
Prepare for pelvic tilt with adduction.
All right, pelvic tilt with adduction. So grab that foam roller or a pillow, whatever you need to be able to do this, or whatever you can use.
3, 2,
Compress
1.
that core.
Pelvic tilt with adduction.
So we want to do these in very distinct movements, okay? So core compression, tight, tight, tight. Think a belly whack is coming to hit you. That should stay tight. Squeeze the knees. Then we're going to release the knees, but keep the core. Core, core, core. Then release the core. You should be telling yourself this every single time you squeeze something here, right? Core tight, squeeze the knees, keep the core. Release the knees, keep the core. Then release the core. You should stay firm through the entire process, because what we're trying to do today is train the core to be able to brace through whatever movement the hip has to go through. So if I step up, if I push down, if I step to the side, in or out of the car, whatever action my hips do, I don't want my core to be really sloppy and loose. I want my core to be tight, then create those movements through the hip. So that's what we're training. So get nice and tight,
1.
firm squeeze.
Prepare for pelvic tilt with knee toward chest.
Nice. Okay, pelvic tilt with knee toward chest. So this is a march. So you're going to do that pelvic tilt. So we say a Kegel. It's like you're holding in a fart. Compress that core nice and tight. Then march those feet. Okay, and you'll find I use descriptive terms that just get you to think about activating the muscles the right way. Okay, good compression. Again, as you march, we don't want to see the hips shift at all, right? Your core should be so tight, the pelvis on the floor does not change. So compress that down. Another really good way to check this, to make sure you're getting it right, is you could even put like a belt or a band, something underneath your low back. And then you're going to try to push your low back against the floor as hard as you can. Try to pull the belt out. If you can just easily pull that out, you're not getting that core compression the way that it should be. So get really tight. Compress that core. Push into the floor. Firm, firm, firm.
3,
And let those
2,
feet be light.
1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with bridge.
Okay, here we go. Pelvic tilt with bridge. So this time you're going to pelvic tilt, get really tight. Squeeze the butt cheeks together like you're pinching a penny, lifting up.
3, 2, 1. Pelvic tilt with bridge.
Okay, and a lot of times I see this one too coached, where we're going hips through the ceiling, trying to drive all the way up. But a big problem with that is we end up jamming our back so hard into the ground, we arch a ton in that low back, and we create so much pressure jamming those joints together in the low back. So rather than jamming those joints, compress that core, squeeze the butt together nice and tight, and hold and brace your spine as you lift off the floor, right? When you set back down, the hips, low back, and low ribs should connect with the ground all at the same time. So that's what I want you to work for. Compress, hold tight, squeeze the butt cheeks lifting up. You might only go 1 to 2 inches. That's fine. Don't worry about how high you're going. Worry about how well you're squeezing the core. Okay, tight, tight, tight. If you realize you get through part of this and you're like, oh, I completely forgot. Yep, see that all the time.
1. Prepare for shoulder drops.
But that's why we do even more, right? We squeeze even tighter. Get really firm through the movement.
3, 2, 1. Shoulder drop.
Okay, here we go. With shoulder drops, we want to start by pulling the shoulders out of those ears and down to the floor, right? So if you notice, my red stripe here is way in front of my ears. I want to take and pull that all the way back behind my ears, but then also reach down towards your feet, right? Core compress, shoulders down and back, holding as firm as you possibly can through the core. We still don't want to forget the core.
That's halfway.
As we learn to brace that spine and hold it in place, you might have restricted range of motion, right? It might stop right here. That's fine. Pull it right back down to that starting position. What I don't want you to do is think I need to get my thumb all the way to the floor, right? So I'm not trying to force this so much that I arch my back to get my arm on the floor, right? I want to hold and create that nice tight compression
3,
and then get
2,
all I can out of it through
prepare
that
for
motion.
Deadbug.
Very good. Now we're going to add the dead bug with that march, or you can add it with leg extension. So you'll see it here as we get going.
2, 1. Deadbug.
Okay, so as we set up for the dead bug, compress that core, make sure you brace the spine to the floor. You're going to lift both feet parallel to the ground, extending opposites, okay? So you only extend as far to the ground as your core can tolerate. If you let go of that core and that back pops off the ground, just for the sake of trying to get your leg all the way to the ground, you've defeated the purpose of doing the core stability. So get your core stable, hold it tight,
That's halfway.
only extend as far to the ground as your core can hold tight. So that means you might end up shooting just right to the edge of the ceiling, right? So right to the corner of the room and then come right back up. Right to the corner of the room and then come back up. You might not get all the way to the floor. Totally okay, all right? 10 seconds left of the final exercise for this round. Do your best to hold that core. Recompress.
3, 2, 1.
Awesome.
Long rest.
All right. So we can use this as a water break. Take your time. We've got 1 minute before we'll restart. At the 45-second point, you'll get basically a warning, 3, 2, 1. That means get back on the ground, ready to go. You have 15 seconds, and then we'll start the second round. For the second round, what I want you to think is your feet are very, very light, okay? So if your feet were sitting on scales and they weighed 20 pounds, I want you to lift 10 pounds of pressure off, right? 50% of the pressure off your feet, but do not lose that spinal bracing. And you know you lose it if that low back pops off the ground,
3,
right?
2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt.
Okay, here we go. Good, tight pelvic tilts as we go through. So Kegel means pelvic floor is compressed, or hold a fart in, and then compress the core like you're about to get punched in the stomach.
1. Pelvic tilt.
And here we go. Good pelvic tilts all the way through. Okay, compress, compress, compress. Keep that core nice and tight. And then relax, okay? And then do it again. But again, compress the core, lift 50% of the weight off your feet. You're just firing the hip flexors a tiny bit to try to pull. And if your core stays flat on the ground, or your back stays flat on the ground from your core compression, that's wonderful.
halfway.
That's exactly what we want. So go to that challenge point where it's really, really tough. Force that core to fire, nice and tight. Okay, firm, 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 firm squeeze. Remember, you do have the ability to comment on these videos. Feel free to leave a comment if you have any questions about how to do any of these exercises, and then I can try to get back to you and make sure that you understand the movements
1.
as you go.
Prepare for pelvic tilt with knee fall out.
Okay, tilt with knee fall out. So same thing, Kegel, core compression, knee goes out to the side, then bring it back up, firmly holding the core the whole time.
3, 2, 1. Pelvic tilt with knee fall out.
Maybe I shouldn't say the whole time, through the whole action, right? So if my action is out and up, just for that one side, I want to maintain that core compression. You might relax the core and then do it again. Core compression, do the other side. Out, back up, core compress, tight, tight, tight. Okay, doing your absolute best all the way through the movement. Core tight, tight, tight. And again, you could try, if you have something a little heavier, you can try setting that on your core, and you should be able to brace any sort of pressure that comes into that core. Stop that weight from creating change. Hold, firm, firm, firm. Good, almost there, 7 seconds. Doing your best as the knee goes out and back up.
3,
Core tight.
2, 1. Prepare for
Good.
pelvic tilt with adduction.
Okay, tilt with adduction. So grab that foam roller, compress that core, squeeze the knees, lift the feet a tiny bit, set the feet down, release the knees,
3,
release the core.
2, 1. Pelvic tilt with adduction.
Okay, Kegel, core compression. Squeeze your knees. Gently start pulling on those hips, just enough to make a fire. Keep the core down, set the feet down, release the knees, then release the core. Again, this is a core sandwich. First thing on, stays on all the way through the action till the end, then it shuts off. If you find it's really difficult for you to let go of the knees and keep your core tight, that's what we want to train, right? We want to train the core staying tight as you relax that motion.
That's halfway.
We don't want to relax everything all at once, because then that means you have no core control through the entirety of the movement you're trying to create. Core compressed, firm, firm, firm.
Three, 2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with knee toward chest.
Good. Pelvic tilt with knee toward chest. So this is that march again. Okay. Make sure you compress that
3,
core.
2,
Hold it
1.
nice and tight with the
Pelvic
shoulders
tilt
down
with
and
knee
back.
toward chest.
Okay, so a lot of times what I see is we'll end up trying to do like a crunch in order to get this tight. And that's okay. That's typically what this induces, is a little bit of a crunch. But a part of the problem is we don't walk like this. We don't want to walk like this through the day, right? We're not going to try to slump our shoulders down and walk with our core compressed. We want to stay tall with the core compressed, right? So that's why we try to train it this way, with the shoulders down, core compressed. Then create the action we're trying to create. Okay, good, firm squeeze all the way through. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Do your best all the way through. Compress, compress, compress. Holding that nice and tight.
3, 2, 1.
Awesome.
Prepare for pelvic tilt with bridge.
Okay, tilt and bridge. So we want our feet about shoulder width apart, maybe even a little wider, because we really want to engage the glute medius, glute minimus on the sides of the hips. So
3,
in order to do that,
2,
our feet need to be
1.
spread just a bit.
Pelvic tilt with bridge.
And then keep your knees right over the feet, maybe even outside of it just a little bit to create that compression. Now again, core is compressed. Our focus is the core. It's not the movement, it's the core. Compress, compress, compress. Hold that tight through as much of the movement as you can get. Then back down, relax, redo it.
That's halfway.
Good, ladies.
Three, 2, 1. Prepare for shoulder drops.
All right, get ready for those shoulder drops. So again, we're going to first set the shoulders down and back as far as we can, and then hold the ceiling up.
2, 1. Shoulder drop.
Okay, so again, core and shoulders. So core is still compressed. As you go overhead, you should not relax that and arch your back. Okay, core firm, firm, firm. Then work through as far as you can. Return the shoulder down and back as you pull the arm back into its position. If we're not pulling with the lat, we're not doing this right. Okay, so you should feel this a little bit in the back side of that shoulder, okay? Driving them down, back, down, back, down, back. Hit the floor with those shoulders. Press that core nice and tight. Doing your absolute best. Very good. Awesome, awesome. Again, squeeze that core, compress, almost done.
3,
Very
2,
good, Lois.
1. Prepare for
Good.
Deadbug.
Awesome. Into the dead bugs. So again, with dead bugs, or you can do the bird dogs. Either way, it's the same movement, just stability-wise, it
3,
changes it a little bit.
2,
Remember, we don't want to
1.
cat or cow the spine.
Deadbug.
But we want to hold and brace that spine really firm. So again, recompress the core every single time you come back to the center. Recompress, do your extension, come back, make sure it stayed tight. Recompress. See if you have any more slack to pick up. Tight, tight, squeeze. Remember, it's all about how we brace our spine. Okay, so the core works basically like a girdle.
That's halfway.
When we squeeze really, really tight, it's going to compress and hold that lumbar spine so we don't see odd rotations coming in or pinches, especially in the posterior or anterior flexion, where it takes and drives those bones into each other. Well, really wears out our discs a lot more in between those lumbar vertebrae.
3, 2, 1. Long rest.
Very good. Awesome work, ladies. Okay, so last round, our big focus is going to be, if you can, try to hover your feet just 1 inch off the floor through each one of the movements. Okay, so it's going to make it even more intense. There should be so much pressure in your core, you can lift both feet without any change. If you go to lift your feet and it changes, pulls you across the floor, and you feel that shift,
3,
go back
2,
to just gently
1.
lifting your feet. You don't have to get them off the floor. It's just that you challenge it to get there as much as you possibly can. Okay, here we go.
3, 2, 1. Pelvic tilt.
Awesome. Good. Tight pelvic tilt. Remember, Kegel, core compression. Then hover the feet. 1, 2. Set the feet back down. Relax the core if you want to, or re-squeeze and do it again. either way, but this should be extremely intense. It should be difficult, right? If this is easy, if you're breathing normally, you're not squeezing hard enough, okay? I really believe that. It should create change.
That's halfway.
Tight squeeze, good compression, as hard as you can. Firm, firm, firm. Very, very good. 20 seconds. Doing your best all the way through. Nice and tight. Very good. 10. Core compress. Try to hover those feet. Don't let your low back shift.
3,
Right? Don't let it change.
1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with
Awesome.
knee fall out.
Okay, tilt with knee fall out. Again, go to core compression. Raise the feet, knee out to the side.
3,
When the feet
2, 1. Pelvic tilt with knee fall out.
When the feet come off the ground on this one, you will lose a lot of range of motion out to the side because there's no third stability point. So typically it's hip, hip, foot, foot, right? So if we take and we lift the feet, you only now have 2 stability points. At some point, that knee goes out far enough, it will take your whole body over, right? And that's what we want to challenge to, right? Get out just as much as you can, hold firm, then bring it back
That's
up
halfway.
to its standard position. Press, hold that tight all the way through. And if you need to loosen up in between sets, that's fine, or in between each time the knee goes out and comes back up. Relax, re-squeeze, do the other side. Bring it back up, relax, re-squeeze, do the other side. Like, that is okay, but you need to challenge this, make it hard, very difficult, all the way through.
3, 2,
Very good.
prepare for pelvic tilt with adduction.
Awesome. Okay, tilt with adduction. So grab that roller or a pillow. Remember, core tight, knees, lift the feet, set the feet down, release the knees,
3,
release the core.
2, 1. Pelvic tilt with adduction.
Very good. Core tight, compress, firm, firm, firm. Squeeze as tight as you possibly can through the core. Then the knees, lift the feet, set the feet. Keep your core tight, release the knees, keep your core tight, then release your core. It should be very distinct through your movement. Compress, hard, hard, hard.
That's halfway.
Good. Hold that core nice and firm. Compressing tight. Compressing tight. Good, good, good. Firm squeeze all the way through. 10 seconds. Doing your absolute best all the way through, because I know you can. Your best.
3, 2.
Awesome.
Prepare for pelvic tilt with knee toward chest.
Good. All right, pelvic tilt with knee toward chest. So this is the march. Remember, we're not going to scissors kick this, right? Both feet moving simultaneously. Hover both
3,
feet. Move
2,
one up, back
1.
down to a hover. Do the
Pelvic
other one,
tilt with knee toward
back down to a
chest.
hover. Take the time, right? If you need to take a break in between rounds, take a break between each time you move the leg, that's fine. But we do want to force the compression as hard as we possibly can. Do your best. Do your best. Squeeze tight, tight, tight all the way through. Very, very good. Again, your absolute best.
That's halfway.
Make sure you get after it, ladies. Doing your best through. Core compress. Tight, tight, tight. March those feet. And again, if you can't hover the feet through the movement, that's fine, but pull as much as you can through the hips, engaging that core all the more, right? And again, core is compressing that Dorito under the low back. Crush it down. Firm, firm, firm.
2.
Should maybe not say that. I should
Prepare
say
for
chip,
pelvic tilt with bridge.
just in case the copyright claim me. All right, here we go. Tilt and bridge.
3, 2, 1. Pelvic tilt with bridge.
So again, do not forget your Kegel. That's hold your fart in, compress your core nice and tight, squeeze your butt cheeks, lift, set back down. When you set down, it should be nice, just one one entire piece, right? So think like lifting a piece of steel, or even think on a smaller scale, lifting a pen, right? If I lift one end of the pen, the whole thing leaves the ground except the point of contact, right? So that's what we're doing with our bridge, is we want to be so tight through the entire spine. When you lift, there's no transition whatsoever in your spine. So compress hard, or think don't peel off the floor like a sticker, right? We're not going bit by bit, worming up and down off the floor. Hold and brace all the way through. Okay, doing your best,
3,
your
2,
best.
1. Prepare for shoulder
Awesome.
drops.
All right, shoulder drops. Get set and ready to go here. Core compressed, nice and tight.
3, 2, 1. Shoulder drop.
Very good. Okay, core compressed. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Keep the shoulder blades down and back as firm as you possibly can. And every time that arm comes back up towards the ceiling, re-squeeze. Get the shoulders out of your ears, down to the floor. Right? This is so important to me because this is what gets us set into our appropriate push and pull position, is making sure our core can stay compressed when we both pull and push. And we're returning a push-pull program to the shoulders being down and back, right? I do not want to get to a pull position and I'm starting here with a rounded back, right? And my shoulders forward. That doesn't help us gain strength where we need it. We want to pull those shoulder blades down and back, core compressed. Then we can create a really simple pull and push movement all the way through.
3,
Very, very good.
1. Prepare for Deadbug.
Guess what? We are already at the last one. Welcome back, Lois. So again, go
3,
through your core
2,
compression sequence.
1. Deadbug.
Okay, core compressed, Kegel, hold those tight as you create the movement. Re-squeeze. Okay, so you can kind of see how my body from the torso, knees, and arms makes like a square, right? That's what we want to think, is there's a square right in the middle from our chest to our hips, and our arms and knees are just against that square, or that box, right? So create the box and then extend opposites. Okay, again, if you're doing bird dogs, that's perfectly fine. Hands and knees, extend opposites, holding and bracing your spine as firmly as you possibly can. If you arch your back through extension, that's bad. Again, we're jamming our spine. We do not want to do that. We want to create a nice compressed spine, okay? Firm squeeze, tight, tight, tight. Again, holding those shoulders in place. One of the nice things
3,
about the bird dog.
2, 1.
Very good.
Rest.
Well, fantastic work, everyone. I appreciate you logging on, jumping in, and doing the workout. Remember, with these videos, I would love for you to subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you click that button, turn on notifications. You'll be notified every time we do go live for a workout. That way we can help you move well and live well. Have an absolutely fantastic day. Tomorrow we'll be doing an upper body day, so be sure to come ready for that. We will show you all the tools that you need, and you can join us through that. Again, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, you have certain pain that you're dealing with, leave a comment below. I will be able to help you utilizing our online resources, making sure that you need or get exactly what you need to not live in pain. That's the whole point of this channel, is to help the world live pain-free. Have a fantastic day. We're going to jump back into our self-myofascial release video on shin splints. Remember, if you don't have a problem with shin splints, do this video anyway to make sure we stay preventative. And there's a lot of things that will be secondary help that you might not have even known could have helped by doing such a simple routine or drill to work on some of the muscles in your leg, okay? If you do have a bigger problem, something that's really nagging at you, maybe your shoulder's just really sore and creating all sorts of problems, go to the playlist, pick out what works for you. We have self-massage head to toe available on our playlist as well. So jump over there if you need. All right, Have a wonderful day. I will see you again tomorrow.
Typically, runners who experience shin splints have overused the stabilizing muscles of the ankle as well as the dorsiflexion of the foot. The space between the tibia and the fibula has a sheath wrapped around it called the periosteum. This sheath oftentimes is rubbed raw, creating inflammation and tension on the shin bone. The muscles lining the anterior portion of the shin is the tibialis anterior, extensor digitorum longus, and extensor hallucis longus. Sitting on a chair in a figure 4 position, locate the edge of the tibia near the thick muscle tissue. To find the tissue we're working on, push the fingers to the edge of the tibia and drop directly into the muscle tissue. Then squeeze into the bone. Move up and down the shin vigorously. After 30 to 40 seconds working in that position, we will work the opposite side of the tibia with the thumbs. Press the fingers into the soft tissue on the opposite side of the shin. Drag the thumbs up and down vigorously for 30 to 40 seconds. Ensure you work all the way from the top to the bottom of the shin. If your fingers have a hard time tolerating the pressure, you can utilize a lacrosse ball. Holding the lacrosse ball cupped in your hand, press into the muscle tissue directly beside the tibia, working your way all the way from the top of the tibia down towards the ankle. Remember to use strong pressure directly near the bone. Continue the same kind of work on the inside portion of the tibia. Here, you can use pressure from your palm pressing into the muscle tissue, while your other hand cups the ball, allowing you to create the up and down motion. Another way to work the anterior tibialis is by sitting sideways on a foam roller and leaning forward, putting pressure down into the foam roller. Obviously, this takes some balance and coordination in order to keep the pressure on the foam roller. In this position, flex the foot and relax, making sure you squeeze the anterior tibialis. Once complete with the foam roller, in the same position, utilize the lacrosse ball, creating a more pinpointed pressure on the muscle. Work your way up and down the muscle tissue right beside the shin.